Joining us now, Labour's Shadow International Trade Secretary, Nick Thomas-Symonds. Good to see you this morning. And as we were just discussing before, probably the first time I think actually we've been in the studio together, so very nice to have you.
Lovely to see you.
Your thoughts on the resignation of Lord Geidt? Dominic Raab doesn't know why he's done it. I suspect you might have an idea.
Well, I don't think it is surprising, given the conduct, the appalling conduct of this Prime Minister over a sustained period of time, that we see again an independent ethics advisor leaving. This isn't the first time. Sir Alex Allen, very respected civil servant, left his post back in 2020. On that occasion, it was the Home Secretary who'd broken the ministerial code by bullying, and yet it was the independent advisor who was the one offering resignation, not the Home Secretary. On this occasion, we, again, after the serial rule-breaking, the absolute contempt for the British public, following the rules the Prime Minister has shown, we now see another independent ethics advisor leaving. It's the Prime Minister who should be offering his resignation, frankly.
Sure, we have. I mean, it is a brief statement, but it's a statement nonetheless in which Lord Geidt goes so far as to say, well, you know, I regret having to do this, but this feels like the right time to go. I mean, I've lost count of the number of times that people have told me that Lord Geidt is a man of deep integrity and deep honour. If that is the case, if there is some reason behind his resignation, then surely he would just come out and say so publicly.
We do need to see it publicly. We absolutely do. Now, Lord Geidt has previously commented in public that it's a legitimate question as to whether the Prime Minister broke the ministerial code. What we can't have here is number 10 somehow not making public the reason why the person who has actually been policing the upholding of standards in government can't actually, in public, show why they've left their job. We need to see that, and we need to see a situation where number 10 is open about this.
Given that the post of ethics advisor is a prime ministerial appointment, will you have any confidence going forward, no matter who goes into that job?
Well, who on earth do you think would want to take that job after the situation that we've had? I mean, frankly, the only people I can think of who actually condone the rule-breaking of the Prime Minister are the 211 Conservative MPs who voted for him in the vote of confidence. Boris Johnson is a serial rule-breaker, a breaker of the law. I can't think of anyone who would even want to take on that role. OK,
you've talked an awful lot about the propriety or lack thereof of the Prime Minister. Let's maybe perhaps change the focus slightly. Harriet Harman, should she not recuse herself from the Privileges Committee? She was discovered to have accused the Prime Minister 2 months ago of misleading Parliament. She has prejudged. Shouldn't she do the honourable thing, as Chris Bryant did, and step away from those committee responsibilities?
No, I think Harriet Harman is a highly respected, highly experienced parliamentarian.
With a pre-held view of the Prime Minister's guilt.
Yes, but which MP hasn't expressed views of different kinds about the Prime Minister is another question.
Not in those terms, they haven't.
But look, the committee will continue its investigation. Harriet Harman is as I say, an extremely experienced, very well-respected, and by the way, respected on all sides of the House. Mm-hmm. That committee needs to now continue its investigation and come to a conclusion about what is, Neil, an extraordinarily serious matter, which is whether or not the Prime Minister deliberately misled Parliament. It's important that work now continues.
Let's dwell, though, on Rwanda. And, of course, we saw 2 days ago 450-odd people making across the Channel, similar figures yesterday. In your view, as things stand, is there any deterrent effect being offered by the Rwandan scheme?
I think the Rwandan scheme is unethical and I think it is unworkable. We still, unfortunately, see people risking their lives in those extraordinarily dangerous waters in the Channel. I think this is just government by gimmick. It's a government that chases headlines and doesn't do the hard graft that is required to actually solve this problem and to prevent people from risking their lives.
Unethical, impractical, there'll be plenty of people who agree with you. Why then was it not possible for Keir Starmer's spokesman yesterday after PMQs to guarantee that Labour, if they got in at the next election, would act to repeal this policy?
I don't know, I wasn't present at precisely what was said, but look, my view is that this is such an impractical policy. I think it's highly unlikely to be there at the time of the next election. But of course,
if you were the next Justice Secretary, would you repeal it?
Yeah, we will not be spending what is it, tens of millions of pounds sending people to Rwanda? Absolutely not. I'm being very clear about that. What we actually need is a workable strategy. We need that workable deal with the French authorities, the Belgian authorities too, working together to tackle organised crime. Not doing what the government is doing, by the way, proposing a 20% cut in the National Crime Agency, completely the wrong thing to do. We also need to sort out our asylum system. The government calls it broken. It is broken by them in power for 12 years. We need as well those safe and legal routes, a successor to the Dublin III regulation, allowing those safe and legal routes, but also safe returns of people who shouldn't be here.
If it is such a matter of priority, why on earth did Keir Starmer not mention it at PMQs yesterday?
Well, Keir Starmer takes different approaches at every single Prime Minister's questions. You put together 6 questions, you look at the theme for the week, but that isn't an indication of what our view is.
But he also didn't talk about the Northern Ireland Protocol, and the thing that people identify about immigration and indeed about the situation in Northern Ireland, this phrase that apparently has become popular over the past couple of days, wedge issues, that these are issues on which Labour, not necessarily avoiding all debate on it, but on a week when those have been the 2 dominant political stories, for the Leader of the Opposition to avoid them does suggest that he's not entirely comfortable talking about them.
Well, on the contrary, I mean, Keir last week was in Dublin and was in Belfast, and in the course of his career before coming into politics, has a real history of working in Northern Ireland. He's passionate about it, and he's very passionate about speaking about this issue around the protocol. So the opposite actually is the case. It's a huge priority, and I've no doubt that Keir Starmer as Prime Minister will be putting in that work, that statecraft, that would be finding a solution to the Northern Ireland Protocol, not taking the approach that this government does, which is entirely reckless.
Are you a Star Wars fan? Because, of course, yesterday Keir Starmer decided to labour a metaphor about the government, some suggesting that Keir Starmer yesterday was a bit more, I don't know, Jar Jar Binks than Luke Skywalker. I mean, has he taken to heart the comments about him not punching through, not giving it enough welly?
Not really. I think, actually, like me, his children in the past, my son these days, are actually into the Star Wars Lego, so I think it is something that he knows about. But what I saw yesterday at Prime Minister's Questions was Keir Starmer raising those key issues, particularly around the economy, that are affecting all the people who'll be watching us this morning and holding the Prime Minister to account. I was watching the Prime Minister talking about the issue of tax rises, when this is a government that's risen, the taxes have risen 15 times. I was watching the faces of the Tory MPs behind him, and for me, the story of PMQs was them not looking very impressed by that. Don't
tell me that Keir Starmer's performance yesterday was not a direct response to people telling him, come on, you've got to give it bigger licks than that.
No, I think that he was, as he always does, holding the Prime Minister to account on the issues of the day. Clearly, when the Leader of the Opposition has all those quotes from Conservative backbenchers themselves saying that the Prime Minister's not up to the job, of course he's going to raise that, and we saw him doing that. We didn't see many Conservative MPs owning up to precisely who'd said what, but why on earth should the British public have confidence in a Prime Minister when 148 of his MPs do not?
As we did with Dominic Raab, I do want to give you the opportunity to talk about the announcement that you're making today, this review that Labour is launching, trying to get more business to come into the UK. Tell us just a bit if you can.
So what we are looking at now are start-up businesses. What are the things we can do to help them in the first place? What can we do to help them grow? And what we're talking about are things about access to finance, access to skills as well, looking as well at things like public procurement. Can we help businesses in that respect too? And what we are now looking at, we're setting up a review. What we're going to be asking that review to do is to come back and to give us those proposals that we need so that we can encourage businesses to start up, to grow in this country. We're a pro-business, pro-worker party, and we know that that partnership approach is what's going to produce the growth in the economy we so desperately need.
We will talk more extensively about that the next time I see you. Nick Thomas-Symonds, thanks for being with us.